The stars around the research station Zythera shimmered like cold diamonds in the void. The station was enormous, a floating fortress of glass, steel, and alien alloys, orbiting the dead planet Valaris 9. From a distance, it looked beautiful, almost peaceful. But inside, darkness and suffering ruled. Amara, the human woman at the center of it all, had been captured 10 days ago, and for 10 days, she had screamed. Her voice echoed through the steel corridors, bouncing off walls, sliding past the observation windows of alien researchers who had no understanding of empathy. Every scream was a dataset, every tear a variable in their experiments. The aliens were tall and slender, with smooth, gray skin and eyes that reflected everything but emotion. They had never experienced fear themselves, nor the comforting touch of someone who cared. To them, Amara's terror was fascinating, not tragic. Amara had been a pilot, skilled and resourceful, but no training could prepare her for this. Her ship had been damaged by a stray gravitational anomaly near Valaris 9, and she had drifted helplessly into the path of the aliens' patrol. Within minutes, she was restrained and transported to Zythera. The memory of that capture was still vivid. The sensation of weightlessness suddenly replaced by an invisible cage. The sounds of alien machinery clanking around her. The cold, clinical stare of eyes that could see right through her. She had tried to fight, to negotiate, to scream. The screaming had lasted longer than she ever imagined. And even now, it had become instinct. On the 10th day, her body was sore and weak. Every muscle throbbed, and the skin on her arms and shoulders burned from the energy restraints that kept her in place. Still, she screamed, not just out of fear, but out of defiance. If she stopped, she would be nothing more than an object for observation. She would be reduced to the aliens' data, just another entry in a long catalog of experiments. Her voice, raw and desperate, was her last claim to humanity. Somewhere in the galaxy, humans watched her suffering. They were supposed to be allies, comrades, fellow species, yet reports of her screams filtered across communications networks, and few took action. The reasons were many. Fear, political caution, and the belief that interfering could cost lives. The cold calculus of strategy and survival left her alone. Her plight became a measure of how humans had lost the courage to act when it mattered most. Except for one. Commander Elias Rourke had seen her. He had been monitoring the reports of the station. Intrigued at first, then horrified. The recordings of her screams, carefully labeled by alien scientists, haunted him. Every day, he watched as the researchers adjusted their instruments, noted her reactions, and treated her pain like a mathematical formula. They did not speak to her, they did not comfort her, they only observed. Elias had been trained for missions like this, but nothing had prepared him for the emotional weight of watching a human being suffer without reason. His ship, the Aquila, was armed and fast, capable of evading most patrols and security systems. Yet the station Zythera was heavily shielded, a fortress that had never been breached. The odds were slim, but Elias had something the aliens did not. A heart capable of empathy, and a mind that refused to accept cruelty as inevitable. He studied every detail of the station, floor plans, security protocols, energy field patterns, and AI routines. The aliens relied heavily on automated systems, and while advanced, those systems had predictable logic. Elias knew that he could exploit even the smallest flaws. But planning was only part of the solution. To reach Amara, he would have to move quickly, quietly, and without hesitation. Hesitation could cost her life, or worse, make her suffer more. Meanwhile, Amara remained alert, even as exhaustion weighed down her body. The alien restraints allowed minimal movement, enough to prevent muscle atrophy, yet designed to keep her frustrated and helpless. She tried to measure her own strength, testing the limits of the energy fields. But every effort was met with resistance. Her captors seemed to anticipate her every move, adjusting the fields just enough to prevent escape. Still, she did not lose hope. Hope was fragile, but it was hers. And as long as she had it, She had the will to survive. Elias's first contact with the station was indirect. Using a small probe, he tapped into the station's external sensors, masking his presence. He watched Amara's routine, noting the changes in her behavior. 10 days of screaming had left her wary, cautious, and tense, but she also showed flashes of cleverness, small acts of resistance that he could amplify. Every moment he observed, he planned a way to turn her instincts into advantage. Amara noticed the probe first. She sensed it, a small disturbance in the energy readings around her cell. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but she had learned to notice anomalies. Her heart skipped a beat at the realization. A human presence. Could it be a trick of the aliens? A simulation meant to provoke her? She allowed herself a cautious optimism, whispering under her breath, maybe someone cares. The aliens, despite their intelligence, were blind to emotional subtleties. They catalogued anomalies, but they could not distinguish hope from fear unless it fit a predictable pattern. Amara's small spark of hope passed under their sensors, unnoticed. For Elias, it was the signal he had been waiting for. He knew she could respond to guidance, could adapt quickly, could survive the chaos he intended to unleash. He began to move closer, using stealth and precision. The Aquila approached the station under a veil of shadow, using the planet's magnetic field to mask its presence. Elias adjusted his own pulse to avoid detection, focusing entirely on the mission. Each second brought him closer to Amara, but also closer to danger. The station was equipped with defense drones and automated sentries, and any mistake could trigger a cascade of alarms. Back on Zythera, the alien scientists continued their observations. They adjusted dials, recorded data, and occasionally exchanged brief signals with one another, their language sharp and tonal, carrying information Elias could not yet decode. Their interest in Amara had grown over the 10 days, not because they cared, but because her responses were increasingly complex. They noted it scientifically, analyzing fear, determination, and resilience. They did not understand that these were the very traits that made her human. Amara, meanwhile, had developed strategies to cope. She had learned to focus her energy, to keep her mind sharp even as her body weakened. She listened to the subtle rhythms of the station, the hum of energy fields, the soft clicks of moving machinery, the distant voices of her captors. Each sound gave her information. Each pattern suggested a flaw she could exploit if she had the right opportunity. She did not yet know who was observing her from afar, but she felt it in her chest, a pulse of connection she had not experienced in days. The first real obstacle came when Elias attempted to interface with the station's external systems. A small field of energy disrupted his probe, forcing him to retreat temporarily. He realized the aliens had anticipated some level of intrusion. He recalculated, adjusting frequency patterns, timing pulses, and masking his digital footprint. Patience was crucial. One wrong move, one detectable anomaly, and the entire station could lock down. As night fell over Valaris 9, though night was a concept more symbolic than real in orbit, Amara's strength faltered. Her screams grew weaker, more raw. But her spirit remained unbroken. She curled in her energy restraints, shivering from exhaustion and fear, but a spark of hope lingered. She did not yet know who was coming, but she felt that the universe had not entirely abandoned her. Somewhere, someone was watching, someone who might care enough to act. Elias's moment came when the station rotated, creating a blind spot in its external sensors. With careful maneuvering, he inserted a miniature drone, designed to navigate the corridors of the station unnoticed. The drone transmitted video back to him, and for the first time, he saw Amara in person. The sight shocked him. Her hair matted, her face pale and streaked with tears, yet her eyes burned with determination. Despite everything, she had survived 10 days of unimaginable suffering, and she had not given up. Elias spoke softly into the drone's microphone, not expecting a response. "Amara, I'm here. You're not alone." The words carried through the drone's speakers, and for a brief moment, Amara froze. She recognized the human voice. Cautious, trembling, she whispered, Who are you?" "I'm coming for you," Elias replied. "Stay calm. You can do this. You're stronger than they know." For the first time since her capture, Amara allowed herself a small flicker of hope. The fear did not vanish, but it became manageable, tempered by the knowledge that someone had seen her. Truly seen her. And cared enough to act. As the hours passed, Elias mapped every possible route to her location. Each corridor, each airlock, each patrol route was accounted for. The aliens might be intelligent, but they lacked one crucial thing: compassion. They had never acted out of concern for another being. That flaw, small but significant, gave Elias an edge. He would use it to save Amara, no matter the cost. The night deepened, and the station hummed quietly. Somewhere in the darkness, Amara's quiet resolve grew stronger. She had survived 10 days of torment, and now, perhaps, her ordeal was nearing its turning point. She did not know what awaited her outside the cell, but she trusted against all reason that someone human, someone courageous, would fight for her. Elias watched, planning, waiting. Every second brought him closer to her. And every second made him more certain of one thing. No matter how advanced the aliens, no matter how cold their logic, humanity's strength was not measured in technology or firepower. It was measured in courage, empathy, and the will to act when others would only observe. And soon, Amara would see that strength with her own eyes. The hum of the station was steady, almost soothing, yet each vibration carried a hidden threat. Commander Elias Rourke watched the monitors in his small stealth shuttle as it drifted silently in orbit around Zythera. The station rotated slowly, and every time it shifted, a new window of opportunity opened. He could see Amara through the drone's video feed. Curled in her energy restraints, but alert, her eyes reflected fear, exhaustion, and determination. Elias had studied them for hours, but seeing them in real time made something deep inside him tighten, a mixture of responsibility and resolve. He activated the stealth protocols, lowering the shuttle's energy signature until it blended with the darkness of space. He knew the station's defenses were strong. Automated drones patrolled the corridors, and sensors scanned for anomalies. Any sudden spike in energy or sound would trigger an immediate lockdown. But Elias had trained for this kind of situation his whole life. Precision and patience would be his greatest allies. Inside the station, Amara had begun to notice subtle changes in her environment. She sensed the disturbance in the energy fields around her containment cell, a tiny ripple that suggested movement she could not yet see. Her body ached, but her mind worked sharply. She realized that the presence was human, that someone outside was aware of her plight. Her heart leapt. And for the first time in 10 days, she did not scream. Instead, she focused. She whispered to herself, "Someone's coming. I have to survive until they reach me." The first stage of the plan involved disabling the outer perimeter sensors. Elias used the shuttle's remote interface to tap into the station's external communications. He masked his signals, sending false readings to confuse the AI that managed the defenses. The aliens were precise, but they lacked creativity. They could only react to patterns, not anticipate ingenuity. Elias exploited this flaw. Once the outer defenses were neutralized, he deployed a small infiltration drone through an access hatch in the shuttle. The drone was equipped with cameras, a low-intensity shield to pass through energy fields, and a small manipulator arm capable of interacting with control panels. It flew through the station's corridors with quiet precision, avoiding patrol drones and recording every movement. Amara noticed it first. The drone's faint hum was different from the usual background noise, and it hovered near her cell for a moment. She could not see a person, but she felt the presence. A quiet determination that seemed human. Her pulse quickened, and she whispered, "Help. If you can, please help." The drone projected Elias's voice through a speaker, calm and steady. "Amara, it's me. I'm here. Stay calm. Don't panic. I'm going to get you out." Her eyes widened in disbelief. For 10 days, no one had answered her screams. Now, A human voice was speaking directly to her, promising help. She nodded slightly, trying to focus her strength. Even as her body trembled from exhaustion, she tested the energy restraints again, quietly, finding small weaknesses that the drone could exploit later. Elias monitored the drone's progress closely. The AI systems were sophisticated, capable of predicting intrusion attempts based on historical patterns. But they could not anticipate human creativity and empathy. He guided the drone through narrow corridors, disabling minor energy barriers and hacking small doors to create pathways. Each successful move brought him closer to Amara's cell, but it also increased the risk. One misstep could alert the station's central AI. Inside the observation chamber, the alien scientists noticed irregularities. Small readings fluctuated on their monitors, patterns they could not explain. Their communication was rapid and tonal, a combination of alarm and curiosity. Yet none of them understood what was happening. They saw anomalies as data points, not as evidence of human ingenuity or courage. Amara, feeling a surge of hope, began to move her body subtly. She stretched her arms and legs, testing the energy restraints at moments when the alien sensors were least attentive. Each movement was calculated. A small dance of survival. The pain was intense, but her mind focused on Elias's voice, guiding her, giving her instructions that seemed almost impossible to follow under such strain. Elias decided it was time to escalate. The next step involved creating a diversion. He remotely activated one of the station's peripheral drones, causing it to malfunction in a corridor far from Amara's cell. Sparks flew, and a warning signal blared. Alien researchers rushed to investigate, leaving the observation area lightly guarded for a brief window. "Now," Elias whispered through the drone's speaker. "Move carefully, but move. I'm opening the path." Amara forced herself to follow the instructions. Using her strength and focus, she adjusted her position, aligning herself with the small opening in the energy restraints that the drone had discovered. The pulse of pain was sharp, but she gritted her teeth. Survival required sacrifice, and she was willing to endure it. The drone guided her, manipulating the control panels to weaken the energy fields incrementally. Amara felt a tingling sensation as the restraints loosened slightly. It was not much, but enough to give her hope. Each second counted. She drew a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage left in her body. Meanwhile, Elias prepared for his own entry. The station's security systems were still active in parts of the orbital perimeter. He calculated the safest approach, activating a secondary stealth field around the shuttle. The maneuver required precision. Any collision or detection would trigger an alarm. He felt the weight of responsibility heavily. One mistake could cost Amara her life. Finally, the shuttle docked at a maintenance airlock, a section of the station usually reserved for repair drones and supply transports. Elias activated the docking clamps, and the airlock slowly opened. The station's interior was silent for a moment, almost too quiet. He knew the aliens were still present, observing, but they were not expecting human ingenuity in this area. Elias entered the station, moving carefully, using shadows and structural supports to remain unseen. Every step was deliberate. He avoided patrol drones, timing his movements with the rotations of the station and the energy pulses of its fields. The corridors were cold and metallic, echoing with the distant hum of machinery. He felt the weight of the moment. This was not just a rescue mission, it was a statement. Humanity could still act with courage, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Amara's eyes widened as she saw a faint shadow moving in the corridor. Could it be? Could someone actually be here? Her heart pounded as the drone projected Elias's voice again, guiding her toward the maintenance corridor. The path was narrow and dangerous, but she followed every instruction with precision. The alien researchers, alerted by the earlier diversion, began to mobilize. Their long limbs moved with startling speed, but their reactions were guided by logic, not empathy. They could predict patterns, but they could not anticipate a human willing to take risks for another human. Elias used this to his advantage, leading Amara through secondary corridors and maintenance shafts, avoiding direct confrontation whenever possible. Every moment was tense. Sparks flew from malfunctioning panels, alarms blared in the distance, and Amara's body protested with exhaustion and pain. Yet she pressed on, driven by the knowledge that someone truly cared for her. That someone was risking everything to save her. Her determination became a weapon against despair. Elias and Amara finally reached a junction near the central maintenance bay. The path forward was blocked by a high-energy barrier, too strong for Amara to pass. Elias calculated quickly. He would have to manually override the control panel, but doing so risked exposure. He signaled to Amara to stay hidden, hands steady despite the tension. He worked on the panel, manipulating the alien interface with a mixture of skill and intuition. The barrier flickered, energy fields pulsed, and alarms began to echo in distant corridors. Elias ignored them, focusing on the task. Finally, the barrier deactivated just enough to create a narrow passage. "Go," he whispered urgently. Amara pushed herself forward, every muscle screaming in protest. The corridor was short, but felt endless. She moved carefully, guided by Elias's voice and the drone's projections. Finally, she passed the barrier and emerged into a larger chamber, the maintenance bay where Elias was waiting. They were not safe yet, but the first major hurdle had been crossed. Elias helped Amara stabilize herself, checking her injuries and offering water from his kit. She leaned on him, grateful beyond words, tears streaming down her face. For the first time in 10 days, she felt human again, not a subject of observation, but a person with a chance to survive. Elias scanned the room. The aliens were not far behind. Drones hovered at the edges of sensors, and distant alarms signaled the mobilization of security units. They had minutes, perhaps seconds, before pursuit reached them. But Elias had one advantage left: the shuttle. He had prepared it for rapid departure, calculating every possible escape vector from the station's orbit. Amara, though exhausted, nodded. She trusted him completely now. Her fear had not disappeared, but it was tempered by courage and hope. Together, they moved toward the shuttle, navigating narrow passages and avoiding detection. Every step was a test of patience and skill. As they approached the docking bay, the final obstacle presented itself. A pair of alien guardians, tall and swift, blocked the entrance. Elias reacted instinctively, using a combination of hand-to-hand combat training and clever tactics. He distracted one guardian with a quick feint, while leading Amara past the other. Sparks flew from the walls as energy weapons activated, but they managed to slip through just in time. The shuttle awaited them, engines humming, shields active. Elias helped Amara aboard, securing the hatch and preparing for departure. He took one last look at the station, a fortress of cruelty and cold logic, and silently vowed that no human should ever endure what she had suffered. With a surge of power, the shuttle lifted off, leaving the station behind. Alarms blared on Scythra as the pursuit began. But Elias's calculations were precise. The shuttle maneuvered expertly through the orbital defenses, using shadows, speed, and clever misdirection. For the first time in 10 days, Amara felt relief. She was alive, and someone had fought for her. As the station grew smaller in the distance, Amara allowed herself to collapse into the shuttle's seat, exhausted but grateful. Elias sat beside her, monitoring the retreat, his own body tense with the need for vigilance. The danger was not over, but they had crossed the first threshold. Humanity had intervened where others had only watched. In that moment, a silent truth settled over them both. Courage, compassion, and determination were not limited by technology or logic. They were human traits, enduring and unbreakable, capable of challenging even the most advanced alien systems. And as long as one human had the heart to act, hope could survive even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. The shuttle floated silently in the shadows of Scythra's orbit as alarms echoed faintly from the station. Commander Elias Rourke monitored every signal, every sensor, knowing that the aliens would soon realize their captive had been taken. Amara sat beside him, trembling from exhaustion. her mind still reeling from the 10 days of torment she had endured. Yet now, fear was joined by a new feeling. Hope. She had survived, and someone had risked everything to save her. Elias adjusted the shuttle's course, slipping through narrow gaps in the station's orbital defense grids. The AI systems on Zythera were fast, precise, and ruthless. But they could not anticipate human ingenuity. Elias had calculated every movement, every energy pulse, and every possible response from the station. Still, he remained tense. One misstep, and the aliens' automated defenses could trap them in orbit, forcing a confrontation they could not afford. Inside the shuttle, Amara leaned back, trying to steady her breathing. Her muscles ached, and her body protested every movement. But her mind was alert. Elias had given her instructions to keep calm, to monitor the shuttle's systems, and to prepare for potential manual overrides if the AI interfered. Even in her weakened state, she absorbed his guidance, trusting his experience and instinct. The station's sensors detected the shuttle almost immediately. Energy pulses flared in the void, and automated drones accelerated toward their location. Elias had anticipated this. He activated the shuttle's stealth field intermittently, hiding from the sensors just long enough to maneuver past detection. Each movement required precision, and even the slightest deviation could trigger a cascade of alarms. Amara watched the alien drones streak past, glowing like small comets in the void. She felt a mixture of awe and terror. Her mind had been consumed by fear for 10 days. And now it struggled to comprehend relief, gratitude, and adrenaline all at once. She realized that survival was no longer passive. It demanded action, courage, and trust in those who shared it. Elias adjusted the shuttle's trajectory, aiming for a nearby asteroid field that would provide cover from Zythera's orbital defenses. The rocks loomed large on the shuttle's sensors, their jagged shapes promising safety but also danger. He maneuvered carefully, weaving through the field with skill honed from years of evading threats in hostile space. The drones pursued, but the asteroid field became their obstacle, scattering the automated attackers and buying precious minutes. Amara's voice broke the tense silence. "Elias, how did you know I could survive 10 days of that?" Her words trembled, still heavy with trauma. He glanced at her briefly, his expression calm but determined. "Because I've seen humans endure worse. Courage isn't measured by comfort or safety, it's measured by how you respond when everything seems against you. You've survived 10 days, Amara. That proves you have that courage." Her lips trembled, but a small, grateful smile appeared. For the first time since her capture, she felt truly human, seen not as a subject, but as a person worth saving. Her fear was still present, but it was tempered by resilience and trust. She straightened slightly in her seat, ready to do whatever she could to ensure their escape. As they approached the edge of the asteroid field, Zythera's main orbital defenses activated. Massive energy turrets powered up, tracking the shuttle with lethal precision. Elias's hands moved swiftly, adjusting shields and firing countermeasures to confuse targeting systems. The ship rocked under bursts of intercepted energy, but he pressed forward, relying on timing and calculation to avoid damage. The aliens had underestimated human adaptability. Their calculations assumed predictable behavior, but Elias's maneuvers were anything but predictable. He twisted the shuttle through tight corridors between asteroids, letting their own targeting systems overshoot. Sparks of intercepted energy danced across the hull, but the ship held. Amara gripped the edge of her seat, white-knuckled. But she did not panic. She watched Elias with the same trust that had carried her through captivity. Finally, they broke free of the immediate defenses and entered a less monitored section of space. Elias exhaled quietly, allowing himself a brief moment of relief. Though his eyes remained sharp, there was still danger ahead. The aliens would not give up, and the station could deploy pursuit vessels at any moment. He had one more challenge: getting Amara to a safe human outpost beyond the reach of Zythera's orbit. Amara turned to him, her voice soft but firm. "Elias, thank you for not giving up on me." He nodded, eyes forward. You would have done the same for someone else. Humans don't leave each other behind. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of conviction. He had seen too many instances where fear and caution had paralyzed others. Today, that would not happen. Today, humanity had acted. The shuttle's sensors picked up a small fleet of alien pursuit vessels, accelerating from the station. Elias swore quietly, activating the shuttle's boosters and plotting a complex trajectory through a nearby comet belt. The comets, moving unpredictably, would make targeting nearly impossible. He adjusted the shields and thrusters simultaneously, threading the needle with skill born of experience. Amara assisted where she could, monitoring systems and relaying sensor information. Her training as a pilot, though limited compared to Elias, gave her insight into timing and movement. Together, they became a seamless unit. A human team determined to survive and fight back against a system designed to crush hope. The pursuit vessels fired energy pulses, attempting to intercept the shuttle. Elias responded with evasive maneuvers, weaving around comets and using the environment as cover. Sparks of energy struck nearby rocks, illuminating the void briefly with dangerous beauty. Amara's heart pounded in rhythm with the shuttle's movements. But she felt alive for the first time in 10 days. Suddenly, one of the pursuit vessels launched an advanced drone designed to pierce stealth shields. Elias recognized the design immediately, a fast, intelligent drone capable of analyzing evasive patterns and predicting movements. He calculated a high-risk maneuver, diving the shuttle through a cluster of comets so dense that the drone could not follow without colliding. Amara gripped the console as Elias executed the maneuver. Rocks whizzed past, some barely missing the hull. Sparks flew from minor impacts, and the shuttle shuddered violently. Yet, they emerged intact, the pursuing drone destroyed against the jagged surfaces. Elias allowed himself a brief, grim smile. One threat neutralized, but the pursuit fleet was still closing. "Amara, we're almost clear," he said, voice calm despite the chaos. "Once we exit this belt, we'll have more room to evade and finally reach human territory." She nodded, breath coming in shallow gasps, tears of relief and lingering fear streaking her face. She had survived 10 days of torment, endured alien observation, and now was fighting side by side with a human who refused to leave her behind. The experience had changed her, made her stronger, more aware of the resilience that humans could possess. As the shuttle cleared the comet belt, a wave of quiet tension settled over them. The pursuit fleet was still distant, and the orbital defenses of Zythera could not track them through the dense asteroid field. Elias activated long-range sensors, scanning for the nearest human outpost. A small station, unassuming but well-fortified, appeared on the edge of their map. It would be their sanctuary. Amara exhaled deeply, the weight of her ordeal pressing down on her. "I can't believe we made it this far," she whispered. Elias looked at her, expression firm but gentle. "You believed in survival. You held on when everyone else only watched. That's why we made it." The shuttle accelerated, using the last of its stealth boosters to minimize detection. Every moment was tense, every decision critical. Yet with each passing second, they drew closer to safety. Amara's body ached, but her spirit soared. She had survived. Humanity had intervened where the aliens had assumed dominance, and the lesson was clear. Courage, empathy, and determination could challenge even the most advanced systems in the galaxy. As the human outpost came into view, relief washed over both of them. Docking protocols were simple, designed for emergency arrivals, and Elias guided the shuttle carefully into position. The station's crew, expecting few arrivals in this sector, watched in surprise as a battered shuttle emerged from the void. Alarms rang briefly, then ceased as the ship docked successfully. Inside the docking bay, engineers and medics rushed to meet them. Amara was gently helped out of the shuttle, her body exhausted but her eyes alive with gratitude and wonder. She looked at Elias, searching for words, but none could fully capture the depth of her feelings. Survival, trust, and courage had brought her here. And she understood now what it meant to have someone intervene when others would only watch. Elias stood beside her, scanning the perimeter and ensuring no threats followed. His own exhaustion was evident, but it was secondary to the satisfaction of completing the mission. Humanity had acted when it mattered. One human had dared to intervene, and that action had changed everything. As Amara received medical attention and the human crew secured the docking bay, she reflected on the ordeal. 10 days of screams, fear, and isolation had tested every part of her. Yet through it all, the resilience of humans, their courage, their empathy, their refusal to abandon one another had proven stronger than fear. She realized that even in the vast, indifferent universe, humanity's spirit could shine brightly. Elias finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. He looked at Amara, now safe, and smiled faintly. "You're stronger than you know," he said. "And so is humanity." Amara nodded, tears spilling freely now. She had survived. Not because of technology alone, but because one human had the heart to intervene. The galaxy was vast, and cruelty was abundant. But courage, empathy, and determination could still make a difference. And as long as even one human acted with heart, hope would never be lost. In that moment, aboard a quiet human outpost, far from Zythera's orbit, the story of survival, bravery, and humanity's enduring spirit came full circle. The screams that had echoed through alien corridors were finally silenced, replaced by gratitude, relief, and the quiet power of compassion. And somewhere in the stars, other humans, hearing the tale, would be reminded that to act with courage and empathy was to truly be human. The galaxy could be cold, vast, and indifferent. But humanity's light, its determination, courage, and heart would always endure.